welcome to episode 6 of You're Ridiculous.
Hello!
You shut up, I haven't introduced you yet. It's not your time.
Took too long.
I took too long. You wait your turn. My name is Luke, and with me, as always, is the industrial Wolfie.
Whoa, whoa! Hello.
Not so industrial, but you threw me off, so I forgot my specific word.
Your I word.
So had to pull from the old memory bank on the closest one I had. Industrial will have to work. And joining us once again, friend of the podcast, friend of ours, Rainie.
Hello, hello.
Make sure you check out last week's episode where we had a rant on NFTs.
Rant.
It was a rant.
All three of us unhappy.
I ranted, you rant, he, she, we rant. We also did a little show and tell about things we're excited for in the pop culture and gaming world.
I can't wait to fuck Cthulhu.
You could play Smite and do that.
I know, he's not good enough.
Yeah, he's a little weird in that one.
Wolfie's like tentacles
and
all.
We finished that episode up with a question of the week. Finished with the question of the week from Rainie about replacing our appendages with different weapons and tools and such.
Yeah!
Classic.
Thanks for tuning in this week. We will be talking about Little Nightmares 1 and 2.
Whoa, whoa.
We'll also be bringing back Reddit's Hypothetical, and we'll finish off with another question of the week from Rainie.
Sounds like a plan.
So why don't we... Yeah, it does. As always, plans are what we're known for.
Are they?
Oh, yeah. Absolutely. Even though we forget them half the time.
Yeah.
We have them. We might not follow them, but... Alright, so why don't we jump right into Little Nightmares 1 and 2. Wolf, why don't you break it down for us?
Sure thing. Little Nightmares 1 came out quite a few years ago by a studio whose name I forget. Did you write it down, Lucas?
Not this time.
Well, edit it in.
I did for all the Visions one, but edit it in my ass. Go ahead, I'll look it up right now.
Yeah, while you're looking it up, Little Nightmares is a horror game, a non-traditional horror game where you play as Styx, a little girl in a big yellow raincoat. You are on this weird ship.
Tarsier Studios.
Tarsier Studios. Shout out to them. You are on a weird boat full of weird creatures, and you're a weird creature as well, as you experience a bunch of little nightmares.
You're like the least weird creature, though.
I'm doubtful.
You're just like a cute little devil.
Shitty.
I mean, maybe not
around.
visually. But
You're
literally like Christ incarnate. The Antichrist.
You're telling me Long Arms McNolegs isn't as creepy as you?
Visually, yes, but personality
You're just you're just a little cuck in a raincoat,
what?
Alright?
Do you know what that little so-called cuck did to everyone on the ship?
Well, not everyone. Most of them did it to themselves. We're getting off track.
We're only in the middle of the story. We're at the end.
Yeah, you ruined it.
You ruined it.
You're the one who's saying that the little cuck did stuff.
Styx did everything. So
Barely did anything.
As you have guessed, her name is Styx. She's part of a little band of...
How are they guessing that?
What do you mean?
What?
What context clues, as you may have guessed? Through that argument, I definitely expect them to know that their name is Styx.
Oh my god.
Fuck you.
Oh. Anyways. If I can get through the description of the game.
Not if I have anything to say about it.
As I said, it is a horror game. It's slightly a puzzle game, though the puzzles in number 1 were a little janky, but they fixed it in 2. There's a DLC. I did not play it. I did not watch it.
I didn't watch it or play it.
But it's about some irrelevant side character. He's not even in the comics. But yes, you play as Styx, a little girl, a wicked little girl, who's, as you assume as you're playing, just trying to escape the ship, as everything on it is trying to eat her, and also, mostly just her. It implied that there were kids before her that were already eaten.
And there will probably be kids after her.
Indeed. So, initial thoughts on number 1. None. Well, I'll start. Hi.
I was waiting for you.
Head's empty over there.
Well, don't worry. We'll fix that in post. They won't even know that there was a cut.
Oh, not if I have something to help with it.
You don't.
Ah! I'll edit my own cut, and you'll never know.
Well, I get the final audio, so good luck with that.
So, final thoughts. First, initial thoughts.
I enjoyed it thoroughly.
As did I. Lucas, I heard you had thoughts.
Yeah, not the biggest fan.
It's okay. I just want to put in your
honest.
little bias because it's not your style. I just want to put it in there. That's probably why you don't like it.
What is
but we
my
need to
style?
back up for a second and look at the game.
What is
I'm
his
not
style?
even. What is my style? Well, first, share it with the audience. What's my style?
You enjoy having characters that you can dive into and get to know and build a relationship with. You like that kind of stuff. This was a very mysterious game.
Well, sure,
you get thrown
but it's
into
not
it. You
the only
don't
one
know.
I'd like.
I'm just saying this is not like your brand kind of game.
I see.
So before you judge it too harshly, because I know you're gonna, be kind.
I think there's a lot of things the studio and the game did well, but I also feel like game didn't really add much to, like when you're making a game, you have some sort of goal, I'd assume. You want to convey some sort of either message or you want to get your, some sort of point across or what have you. Or you want to add something to the gaming world. And I feel like this game didn't really add that much. I don't think, there's not really a conclusive story until you read all this extra stuff. You have to put in all the work. Like the comic or just the wiki of it, because it has like a good story and everything. But you have to delve further into it that you can't get all the information through the game itself. And I feel like while they did a good job at what they produced, it wasn't anything that the gaming world hasn't seen before. Is more so what I'm getting at. They didn't add, they took a lot of stuff that's already been done separately and put it all together, but that doesn't necessarily make it anything new, I don't think. And I'm sure I'll get criticism for saying this because I know a lot of people enjoy these games.
Absolutely.
But if I can badmouth Undertale, I'm sure I can badmouth this.
I can agree with you a little bit. But way back when the game first came out, and I had heard about the game, I had heard it was supposed to be like a metaphor for childhood. But when you watch the game, that does not come through at all until the second game.
The second game is much more like a complete game. I feel like the first one was a very lengthy demo, almost, or feels like it took snippets of the complete game and it was like a beta tester game. Not that that's a bad thing at all, but I just feel like it was kind of incomplete.
It was their first game, wasn't it?
Yeah, I believe it was.
That makes sense.
Which is fine, fabulous first game. I'm not. I think, like I said, I did say at the start, I think they did a lot of stuff well. I just think it wasn't that new of a game, so it's hard for me to praise it really highly. They just took bits and pieces that have already been done, but did them really well.
Right.
Yeah.
Rainie, what are your thoughts? Do you have anything?
Go ahead.
Yeah. Storyline aside, just take that, whatever is happening with the story, put it to the side, throw it away for a second, throw it in the trash. We don't want it, burn it, I don't care. Graphically and atmospherically, I think they did a great job creating, like, an identity of the game where every single scene you look at, you can tell what mood you're supposed to be in. And I just think they did a really good job tying all these different puzzles and characters together in terms of their look as a whole. If you know what I mean. I think they did a really good job with that.
Yeah, I think, their atmosphere was really good, except in early on in the first game. They sometimes broke its own atmosphere with its bugs.
Yeah,
Which is a shame.
both 1 and 2 did a really... They did have, like, a super complete atmosphere. Like, it never felt... Except the beginning of 2. The beginning of 2 was awful.
What?
And it was terrible. We'll get to that. Yeah, it was bad.
We haven't started. Well,
yeah, it sucked. But we'll get to that. The rest of it, and the rest of the games, really felt like you were in the same game throughout the entire time. Which sounds obvious because you're playing the game, but it's easy to have... it's easy for different scenes or different play styles that games throw in there in the puzzles and stuff like that to take you out of the experience.
Right.
Like your suspension of disbelief is like entirely suspended. And so sometimes that can be thrown off, but I agree. I think they did a really good job on that. And I think one of their best qualities was the audio that they have in the game.
I just listen
because
to the
and the music. Yeah, the soundtrack is really good and makes it real spooky, and the noises in the game, the atmosphere noises are great.
Yeah. And very specifically placed noises and sounds and music locations. You know, it wasn't throughout, there wasn't music the entire game, like background where you kind of become numb to it. They very purposely made it quiet in some parts and put the music in other parts. That just kind of like made you very aware of not only visually what's around you, but when listening to the game, you noticed when it was super quiet and eerie, and then you noticed when there was noise that was supposed to make you feel a certain way in a certain area. And I think that placement was really good.
Yeah, all the audio had a purpose to it. Like, it wasn't just thrown in. And I think this may be more of a case with the second game, but like your character's audio when they would pick things up, throw them, walk on different material, stuff like that. That was also really well done. There's a moment in the second one, I believe, where you walk on hardwood, then it swaps to a carpet, and then you're back on hardwood. And the transition of audio is really good there. Like, it sounds like you're walking on those exact things, and it's not just like a muffled walking noise, which can sometimes happen in certain games.
Yeah. Something I really enjoyed within the game, and I think a lot of people did, was the escalation of Six's hunger.
Yeah.
And I think everyone was like completely blindsided when it escalated to the level that it did. Went from being like a little rumble and some nice man gives you some bread, then you eat a rat. And then your little friend offers you food, and then you eat
some sausage. Yeah, you eat the little gnome boy.
And then you eat the lady, Miss Lady.
That one to me was like more like absorbing her power, but yeah, you do kind of bite into her neck.
I can see that. Perks
like
of eating large women.
Yummy.
Yeah. Tell me about it.
Tall woman, if you would.
Yeah, I thought that was definitely interesting and was, I mean, I don't even think it's arguably, I think it was like the most shock factor point of the game.
Yeah.
Which felt kind of expected, but not in the way that they did it. Like, you know that it's obviously the hunger's escalating, but I don't think many people thought it was going to go to that.
Yeah.
Definitely not.
Because the whole time you think these gnome guys are your friends and they're there to help you and you're there to support them and they're no threat to you and you're not a threat to them. And then
they thought
in the
wrong
end,
with
you're
that.
like, you're like, wait a minute.
Sorry, little guy.
They barely had any meat on their bones in the first place, and we ate them just because we could.
I was reading about that because up until then, I think most people think Styx is
Pick up Styx.
Sorry, I was playing a different game earlier, and the character's name is Styx. So, Styx is a good, person, and they probably are going into it. But I was reading about that scene in particular, and the location that you're in is like a ship called the Maw.
Yeah.
And it's supposed to like emphasize all the bad points or bad emotions and thoughts that the person walking into it has. And so the hungrier she gets, the more likely she is to, move to cannibalism because she's hungry. So the location was what like drove her to do it.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Which was one thing, again, and just a kind of like a small nitpick I have, is like, there's no way, I don't really think you would figure that out unless you read about it or read the comics, because that's apparently where the information came from.
Yeah.
But, if you're into really diving into about the information of the game, then I guess the comics are good, and if you don't care, then it doesn't matter.
Which is kind of funny, because the end of the second game leads you in a very different direction as to why Styx turns evil.
Oh, yeah, the ending of the first one?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, it's like a prequel, so...
Yeah, which that kind of
sense.
Plants the seed for the idea that Styx was, in the beginning of Little Nightmares 1, already evil and already had that hunger point, so it's kind of like, that's a weird concept that you have to differentiate between, are they connected in a way, or was it just kind of an afterthought?
I think evil is a strong word.
Yeah, because
I can see, yeah,
she could have from the start eaten her little friends, but she chose like the non living things to eat when she could.
Yeah, I also hate. I'll say that later. Actually, never mind.
Oh, okay.
I'll save that one for game 2 because that's where it's more important.
Right. What was you guys' favorite chase scene in number 1? Like your favorite chase scene, because there were multiple, like sort of like hide and seek chase type of scene.
Yeah.
So I guess it was the most memorable one for me, and it's really small. But the only time. So the game doesn't really have any jump scares, not really. It's supposed to be unsettling and pretty spooky and really creepy and gross.
Yeah.
Stuff like that, but it's not really like super scary.
Yeah.
Unless you're like uncomfortable in that situation or whatever, but yeah, squeamish or whatever. But so it was a really small scene, but you're walking through this kind of small tunnel and there's 2 holes in the wall.
Oh.
Yeah, and you get past one of the holes, and you walk towards the second hole. You don't really notice it at first, but then Long Arm McGee sticks his hand out through one of the walls, and you back up, and he sticks his hand through the other side of the wall, and you kind of have to, navigate not being grabbed by him. And it just caught me off guard, because normally when you're in those small tunnels, you're totally safe.
Yeah.
And nothing can get you, nobody can see you, and so it was just a derive from the norm, which I think was the whole point. And it did it really well. I thought it was, it was a small part of it, but it was really good.
Yeah.
And it was the one that made me jump. So
it literally created an oh shit moment.
It's like if your heart wasn't pumping before that, then it definitely should be.
Racing.
I'm in danger.
I'm in danger. Yeah, definitely was. Cause I don't know. What about both of you?
Rainie?
Any encounter with the long arm dude, I found very disturbing. Only because
I thought you were just gonna say like any encounter. I lost my shit.
Any encounter, but only because the abnormalities of his body, and at the same time putting a blindfold on him and making it seem like he has a disadvantage in a way, but then realizing, he can actually do a lot of damage to me and he can actually get me. And that made me very uneasy. I hate the idea of being
He was
caught
definitely
in
the
any
spookiest.
way.
Those hands can do a lot.
Yeah. I don't like that at all.
Oh, and then the way you end them.
Oh, yeah.
Not as little arms, as long arms.
Good.
Yep. Gone.
That's great.
Like, I'll take these.
Yeah. She should have eaten those arms.
Oh, yeah. That's probably ton of protein.
Muscle.
Also, when Six is running on the table, once she does kind of like resurface to where the guests are, and she's running along the table, and the guests are trying to grab her and eat her because of their hunger, I hated that part too. Yeah. Not hated it in a way, I disliked it in the game, but it made me uncomfortable.
Oh, and the way they're like rolling like a tidal wave for each other.
The entire that whole section of like with the people eating the other people was very reminiscent of Spirited Away, where the people turn to pigs. Yeah. I'm like, that's all I could think about the whole time.
More horrific.
I'm like, it was definitely more horrific, but that's all I could think of. Like, that's what it reminded me the whole time. So yeah, it was definitely unsettling.
Wolf, what about you?
Yeah, that end scene where you're running from everyone on the ship. That had to be mine.
That's fair. That's definitely a close second. I didn't.
I was gonna say, I thought the kitchen was going to be more unsettling to me personally. But I was actually okay.
Really boring.
I was actually okay doing that. I'm like, okay.
The kitchen was a huge snoozer.
Depending who you watch, the kitchen was nothing.
Yeah.
I guess it's safe to say that, well, we probably should have said this at the beginning, but none of us have played this game. We all watched other people play it.
Yeah, unfortunately.
Through different content creators. Yeah.
Emotionally played it.
Yeah, who's got time to do everything and play games nowadays? So we had to consume it by other means.
Listen, we had full-time jobs.
I wasn't exactly. I wasn't.
When it first came out.
What? No way. Is it that old?
Yeah.
It's pretty old.
How old is this game? I thought it was like.
First one's pretty old. I was definitely in high school.
Oh, it's like 2014 though.
2015.
Okay, well, oh yeah, okay. Yeah. Oh, so some things I was gonna mention that they've done well, and this extends to both games. I think the scale of everything was really well done. Oh. How like you're this really tiny child, and everything is so much bigger than you.
Yeah.
You later find out, and I'm like, so I think at first it's kind of like you're in this separate world almost. But you might still be, but later in in the second game you find out that these small little children grow up to be really humongous fuckers.
Yeah.
So but anyways, I thought everything was scaled really well to make you feel intimidated and kind of out of your element, and makes it feel like you don't have much of a chance.
Yeah. You know what else I really liked? The shoe monster.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, where you're like running through the shoes.
Yeah. It's just something's rumbling below, moving the shoes, and you don't know what.
Yeah. I enjoyed the little gnomes.
Oh, yeah.
The little gnomes were adorable. They were like a nice comfort.
They were a good touch to kind of, draw you back in. Give you some sort of hope where there wasn't any.
Yeah.
Alright, do we want to move on to game 2?
Yeah, we sure can. Game 2, you play as a different character. It starts with a cold open with some little kid. Some little kid popping out of a portal and landing on his ass face first in the middle of a forest. And you get right into it.
We've all been there.
That's right. This little one is named Mono. You see in the thematic thing with their names, 1 through 6?
Like Mono Orangeosis, or whatever it's called.
Who? So now you're playing as Mono. This kid, he wears a bag over his head. Both characters, they cover their faces almost throughout the entire game until, like, something big happens. And he's tromping through the forest where there's, like, hunter traps everywhere. And this one, it got a little goofy for being a horror game.
Wow, I sure did just reference something from Wizards of Waverly Place.
Wow.
I just looked it up. That's unfortunate.
Amazing.
Oh my god.
Anyways, moving on.
Oh yeah, it gets a little goofy. There's like these traps set out, and you're like, oh, gotta be careful, gotta avoid them. And then like towards the end of it, you throw out a thing to check for traps, and like 50 go off.
Yeah.
Yeah, all the bear traps on the ground.
It goes on for like 2 minutes. And all you can do is watch it in amazement.
Yeah, it's like 50 or 100 feet of just bear traps. It's ridiculous. I hated that, the opening.
His bear traps shouldn't be that close together.
The opening was bad, and I'll die on this hill. The opening feels like a completely different game.
Yeah.
Not because of the traps, but just like the ambiance is like super off. I'm sure it's like trying to draw you into this creepy world with all the stuff and the TVs and the traps lying around. But I feel like they could have just you could have just opened at the guy's place.
I feel like it was definitely...
I feel like there was no reason to do that.
It was definitely a tutorial scene, but it didn't really have any means to be a part of the game and a part of your adventure.
You could die in within like 10 seconds.
Yeah.
Trying to look at the surroundings.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's like a trap right on the ground and you could just die.
Or you could get your head bashed in by the log rolling down.
Yeah, I just felt like it was not... it didn't belong... I don't know. That's just me. I just think it was not a good spot to open the game.
Yeah. I did like the meeting with, what's-her-face, Styx, and also how it was then reflected in the ending.
Yeah, and you find how, like, Styx got her raincoat and everything.
Keep calling her Styx.
Oh, damn it. That game screwed me. I shouldn't have...
Ruined yourself.
The game itself is literally called Styx, so I don't...
But yeah, with Little Nightmares 2, it actually switches things up a bit. In Little Nightmares 1, you're mostly just running away from things. You're running away, you maybe do a simple puzzle, and you're like hiding, stealthing your way through a thing. And if you fucked up the stealth, then you're just running. But in Little Nightmares 2, there are significantly more puzzle type things. From the very beginning, you have to, you puzzle your way into the house, you puzzle your way out of the house, up into the attic, down the attic, and to eventually you two escape. Then there's a stealth thing. And then, but yeah, lots more figuring things out, especially with the help of Styx, who has reluctantly joined you on your adventure.
Yeah, she warms up to you after a little while. Yeah, 1 is definitely more of a spooky puzzle platformer. Is how I would kind of describe it. And then the second one is a spooky, unsettling puzzle, exploration survival game.
Yeah.
There's way more to explore. There's way more options of areas to go to. And kind of do things and test things out. Obviously that makes sense when you consider the scope of location.
Yeah.
The first one takes place in a, localized ship, so there's only so much you can do.
Yeah.
The other one, number 2, is just in the world.
Yeah.
It's several different locations. You end up towards the end, after you get out of the damn forest, you're in an entire city, so.
Yeah. Travel across, I guess, a river.
Yeah.
Yeah, obviously you have a lot more to explore and find out about, so I felt like there was a disconnect between the two games just because of how different the scope was.
I feel like Little Nightmares 1 was more about showcasing what the creators were capable of and what, what kind of ambiance, what kind of puzzles they can make, what kind of atmosphere they can make. And then Little Nightmares 2, I feel like was way more planned out story-wise, and they were able to be more comfortable with the style that they've created and just add a little bit of spice to it.
Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah, that's fair. I can buy that. And I'm not saying like the disconnect is bad or good or anything, because obviously you would expect your second game to be a bit bigger.
Yeah.
Especially considering how well the first game did. So.
Gotta answer that.
But it was just something I noticed and was maybe a little bit disappointed by. But that's mostly just personal preference.
Yeah, so in Little Nightmares, you go through a couple different sectors. There's the forest, there's the school, and there's the city, and there's the twisted TV city.
There's like the tower at the end.
Yeah, the tower. Where
which has the final location and shit.
Yeah. Out of those, 4 locations I just listed, which one was your favorite section of the game?
Well, I guess I'll answer, because I hated the first section.
There's a
actually, that's not quite true. I just hated it up until you get to his house.
I see.
After that, it's fine. Like I said before, you should have just started there.
Yeah.
The rest of it was bullshit. But definitely my, I guess favorite? Are you asking me, my, favorite location? Or just, the one that I was, most unsettled by, before?
The location you enjoyed. The location/section of things. So, not just the location, but the things
I didn't enjoy any of it. I want to get the fuck out of there.
But I mean, you're watching a horror game, so, that kind of enjoy. The
Yeah. It was definitely the hospital area with all the, dismembered mannequin patients.
Funnily, I did not name
I was so uncomfortable during that and, actually kind of freaked out and spooked a bit. And I'm just like, this is a fucking nightmare. I would hang myself. There's no way I could get through that.
Horrific mannequins that acting like the weeping angels.
It's like fucking iRobot, but kicked up to 10. Anybody remembers that movie?
Yeah.
Throwback.
But it's just, oh yeah, Will Smith throwback.
The hands. It was the hands for me that really.
Oh
I
yeah,
did not
definitely.
Like that. Yeah.
Yeah. I didn't really care about the doctor. He was whatever.
Yeah, he was at the end. He kind of looked like he emulated the first game's chase scene where everyone's chasing you.
Yeah.
That way, the way they choreographed it.
Right, and so I was kind of used to that. We've gone through that. It's not going to get me again. But yeah, definitely the mannequins and how some of them were chasing you and some weren't.
Yeah, you never know.
Specifically the scene that got me the worst was the wheelchair scene.
Oh,
that was
because he sprang the fuck up.
Yeah,
he got up so quickly. It was just I almost dropped my laptop when I was watching it.
In other games, we would slowly gotten about the chair. No, he wasn't happy.
Oh yeah, that fucker was running. Anyways, is it the same for you two, or do you have different answers?
I really like the city portion, where you're where they've got those, weird, distorted void faces, and you've gotta, and they're, attached to the TVs, and it's it was unsettling, the way you had to sleek around, and then when you, had to use them to your advantage, the way that one where it just bolted at you. Or no, it was bolting for the TV. And so by doing that, it unlocked the next area because it suicided into the window across from you.
Yeah.
That was fun. Creepy. Very creepy. And the way they just, suck you out. They suck when they catch you.
The city and the whole city area and part of the school area, I think, more specifically the city. I really enjoyed the the difference in height, and that the editors or like the designers used how there's up and down and left and right, and like they took advantage of the space that they had really well.
Yeah.
I thought the first game kind of started on that, where there's like tunnels and you have to go above, you have to like use the ceiling and different shelves up there, and then you have to go back down low and underneath the floor. But I think game 2 really expanded upon that in like a really excellent way.
Yeah.
And just like they knew the space that they had, and they took advantage of all of it that they could.
Rainie, what about you?
My favorite area was definitely the signal tower. And so I'm a big slut for color palettes. I love a good color palette, and I really feel like the
I'm
whole
a big
game
slut.
just a period.
That's why I'm in the club.
Youre. But
Yeah.
the game is in stop.
I'm deleting my audio.
You're done. But the
Get
game
out.
is grayscaled, and it's got a lot of grays and blues, and that's kind of like the entirety of the game until we get up to Signal Tower, and that's where suddenly there's like this burst of like pink and purple mixed in with this blue, and I just thought it was like such a
Six becomes
cool
like a
moment.
fucking freak.
Yeah, it like becomes saturated, and suddenly you're surrounded with this color, and it also makes Six because her jacket is yellow, and it really pops once you got huge morphed Six in a yellow jacket in this pink and purple environment. I just thought that was a really cool way to express this area, to really showcase that this was an important place to be and that you needed to remember it and make your way through it. And the sound was really cool. It changed the sound up once you entered the tower, and I really liked that.
Something that I'm only thinking about now and haven't fully processed yet, but what do you think about how Six had the yellow raincoat as a distinguisher, and Mono had nothing? Not really. You had the hats, but not really anything. And Mono becomes the radio demon. Or, not radio demon. Oh, we're tying it into Has-Been.
We're too early!
The radio tower meant he becomes the Thin Man.
Yeah.
And where Styx... fuck me. Where Six comes, nothing, really. She gets away in both games.
Yeah.
Mono
It's really funny
easily...
that Mono was like... It was really funny how Mono was like a secondary character in what is his game, essentially. He's like the side character.
It didn't end up being... Well, he ended up being, but you didn't know that until the end.
That is true.
Yeah.
You just knew that, Six, lives.
Yeah. But I mean,
Because
even
often...
the way she gets, like, the raincoat, the only splash of color in the whole game. It's like, she gets it shortly after you leave the school.
Yeah.
I feel like Mono can so easily blend into the environment because there's no color on them whatsoever, that it's really ironic that once you do get towards the end, because they have this ability to look like the style and like a part of the city and everything that we've walked through, and then suddenly they literally become the embodiment of what has caused the city to look the way it does. I think there's some correlation there, I'd like to think.
Yeah, I think it's like there's a lot of foreshadowing throughout the game that Mono becomes the Thin Man, or becomes the Thin Man. Yeah. But so I think that's part of why he doesn't get his own coloring distinction.
Yeah.
So I just thought that was interesting. I don't know if that's, been brought up before, but only something I thought of now while you were talking about color palettes and stuff.
Yeah.
Another thing I want to talk about was, do you think Mono was the radio, was the Thin Man the whole time, and he was chasing his younger self, or do you think he just becomes a new Thin Man?
I think he's chasing his younger self. Because his thing is that he's in a loop. and he has to be chasing his younger self, because why else? Because when you're in his area and he's the big boss, when he catches you, he doesn't kill you like everything else in that world does. He just takes you. And initially, he just takes Styx and removes her from the picture. So, which makes me think that there's a reason he's not killing you on sight.
Do you think that Thin Man's trying to catch himself to change what he becomes later on? Is that a possibility?
Well, that's kind of what I was thinking about. My problem with, and I agree, I'll answer both in a second, but I agree with Wolf about how it's, chasing your former self, your younger self. My problem with this whole thing, and to kind of answer your question, Rainie, is that I don't like that there is no separate outcome besides Milo's demise.
Milo!
I'm losing it, man.
Yep, you're done.
Who's Milo?
I have no idea who Milo is. Besides Mono's demise. It kind of makes you feel none of the game really matters if you subscribe to the idea that he is chasing his former self, right?
Right.
And if that's the case, then what was the point of any of the game? And I think it is more likely that he was chasing his former self, because there's so much foreshadowing about that the entire game. So it's hard to think that he just becomes a different Thin Man.
Yeah.
And so I'm just kind of it kind of defeats the game a little bit for me. Whereas, why did I do any of this if, this was the outcome the whole time, right?
Yeah, I think maybe the point, I think one of the points is that he can change this at any time. He can stop this loop as an adult at any time. But it's kind of like, as long as adult him is bitter at child Styx, the loop will keep repeating. Because the reason the loop repeats is because the Thin Man captures Styx, corrupts her, and then he gets betrayed by Styx at the end. And
right, but I don't think there's an outcome that can change there.
I mean, maybe if
not one that he can control.
Not Styx. What a funny thought. Sort of unrelated. I've always wondered if Styx would betray him regardless at the end.
Well, that's what I'm saying, right? I think that's the outcome. I don't know. I know there a couple, there, at least in game 1, that there's some hidden endings and stuff like that. And there's some hidden endings in game 2, but I don't know if Styx not betraying him is a hidden ending. I didn't ever see that. No. So I'm assuming that Styx will betray you no matter what.
I see.
And so I'm under the assumption that Mono's fate is not changeable in a way that he can control. It has to be from Styx not being a complete cuck.
I truly believe it could be one of those situations where as a player, you're supposed to reach the end of the game and come to this moment where you realize that after everything that you have done, the real horror is that no matter how you played the game, this is the ending. This is how it's going to be. And you're kind of forced to kind of understand and accept that it's happened. Kind of so with Deltarune, an example of that would be when you're setting up your character and suddenly the game rips it out from underneath you. Nuh-uh, that's not how this is going to go. I'm going to tell you how it's going to go. And rather than having a game where the butterfly effect, you cause the outcome, you make the decision, now we have a game that no matter what you decide, it's going to be the same at the end.
This is Styx's game, and you're just a stepping stone to her character development.
Damn.
I mean, yeah, I'm assuming that's I mean, that may have been partially a joke, but I honestly think that's kind of the point.
Because I mean, also
straight up, I think that's kind of the point.
Yeah.
In terms of inevitability, that what do you call it? Styx also inevitably becomes the lady.
Yeah. You do. You kind of do.
I don't think so. No. You just inherit powers to fend off the old people that are eating each other.
Fend off or completely destroy and eat and all that.
The lady...
Well, yeah, but that's fending off.
The lady before she was the lady with that look, she was also a 6. And they, by absorbing the lady as a child, she grew up to become the new lady. Therefore, by
right,
6
but like at the end of one,
yeah,
at the end of one, 6 walks out like towards, what you can expect to be some amount of freedom.
Yeah, maybe the lady did that too.
Right, but I don't think it's like fair to say that that she became came back to the Maw and became a lady again when we know that's what happened to Mono, right? Like he becomes or has always been the Thin Man. Yeah. Where maybe in Game 3, if there's a Game 3, we find out more about 6 and if she has always been the kimono mirror lady.
Yeah.
But I don't think it's fair to assume it right off the bat, But maybe that might also be me trying to grapple with some sort of character control and as a player control, but that may not be the point of the whole thing. So maybe you're right. Who's to say, really?
I suppose.
Anyways, what do we rate the game as a whole? 1 out of 10, 10 being excellent, 1 being poo.
Number 1 is a 7. And then number 2, it's a 9. And it's a 9 because I'm a real slut for callbacks. So as I mentioned earlier, the beginning of the game, not beginning, your introduction to 6 is repeated or reflected back at the end of the game which ultimately ends in 6 leaving you. You meet her, she's playing this music box thing. And she's so focused on it, she doesn't even notice you come in for a while. And it's playing her music box plays her theme song, which is a music box theme version of it. And at the end of the game, inside the tower, the corrupted 6 has this music box again. And it is the thing that is trapping her inside. And so you have to be the one to destroy it to free her. But in destroying it, you become her enemy. Which is neat. So I give it a 9 because of that. Just because of that scene.
Alright. Rainie, what do you do? Or what do you give?
I would put this at around an 8 or 9 on the horror, as a horror game, only because it's different from what
both of
I
them
have
or?
Seen. Yeah, together, putting them together. I mean, only because when you think of a horror game, you think of something that you don't know what's coming after you. You're thinking of monsters, some kind of gore, there's some kind of scare tactic around every corner. I just think that they took something and they kind of flipped it and created a really nice atmosphere, and I actually really did enjoy it. Mm-hmm.
That's kind of interesting because I actually thought a lot of the games were predictable.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, humble brag, I'm actually really good at predicting outcomes for video games and movies. That's one thing that pisses my sister off whenever we're watching something together. I'm
ridiculous.
I'm always predicting stuff and it ends up being pretty accurate.
Yeah.
So maybe that's just me. But I am not really one that goes for the horror spooky stuff, and I still thought it was kind of predictable, but maybe we're thinking on two different axes about what we're predicting. So either way. For my grade, I'm not going to count them together because I think they're too disjointed. So 1 gets a 5.
Oh!
I think it was an excellent first game for the studio. And I think number 2 is also really good, so, kudos to them. 2, I'm actually going to give that one a 7.
Wow.
It's pretty high on the Lucas scale.
Yeah, not too bad. I don't remember what I gave Undertale, but it was probably a 4. So, yeah, well, I guess not yeah. Either way, Undertale or Deltarune, I get 4s and 5s. Yeah, so this is a 5 and 7 for me.
Alright.
Kind of just, I have a lot of small gripes about it. Overall, I think the game is really good, but There's just like, well, it's a solid game, and I understand why people enjoy it. I
Yeah.
guess that's what I should say.
Yeah.
I understand why others rate it so highly. It just feels a little. I'm just nitpicky, so.
I will admit, in 2, there were often times where Mono was doing things, and there wasn't really a reason why other than you were playing a video game.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Like when you had to pick the music box.
Yeah, there was definitely stuff like that, and it was just kind of annoying. Yeah, it was like, it's like when, you're watching a movie or whatever. I mean, I mentioned it before, but this game asks you to suspend your disbelief a lot. And I think a couple times in game 2, it does that too often, where it's like, oh yeah, you have to believe this or have to come to terms with it because you're playing a video game, Like, you have to understand that you're playing a video game. It's just like, or like in movies, it's like, oh, why did they all split up? It's like, well, because you're watching a movie.
Why are we going this way? You have to.
You have to.
Exactly, right? So it's like, it's kind of just stuff like that here and there. I definitely agree with you, Wolf.
Why?
It felt like there was too many of those.
Why is the hospital right next to the school, and why can't we go around it?
Yeah, it's just. So, that discussion actually took a bit longer than I was anticipating.
Yeah,
had a lot to say. So, I'm proposing that we save our Reddit's hypothetical for next week.
It is
make
intense.
them wait. It's a good one. You're going to want to tune in for that.
Suspense.
And we can just move right on to Rainie's question of the week.
Yeah, definitely.
All right, let's do it. Rainie, what do you got for us?
This week, if animals could talk, what animal do you think would be the biggest bitch, and what would their go-to insult be?
Wolf, why don't you start us off?
It would definitely be kangaroos. And let me tell you why. It's because they have the body to back up their assholery. Like, a kangaroo talks shit to you, what are you gonna do? Say something back? It's gonna fuck you up. It's gonna lay whatever insult it wants at you. It's gonna be real creative because they're Australian. And you're just gonna take it.
You're not
And they
gonna
know
get an
you're
insult, you're
gonna
just
take
catching hands.
That's what
Makes
Fucking
sense.
kangaroo.
I don't know what their go-to insult would be, but it would probably be species specific for everyone.
A swift kick. Lucas, what about
That's
you?
kind of funny that you. That's kind of funny that's your answer because mine's not. The reasoning, at least, is pretty similar. So I think the biggest bitch would be any bird at all because they can fly and nobody else can.
You know?
I think
Different
that's
kind
like.
of bitch.
Yeah. It's like they would make fun of or like laugh at you and like call you any like make you feel inferior because they can fly and they can just go where they want and you cannot. And their insult, I don't know exactly the insult, but they would call you just names like grounded biped or grounded quadruped for other animals. Like it would be something like that.
You filthy
It would be
live
like-
birther.
Yeah.
Oh my
Yeah, it would be
God.
stuff like that. So the biggest bitch would be any bird.
Yeah.
That's fair. That's lovely.
Yeah. Rainie, what do you have?
I think I thought the bird route too, only because I thought parakeets because they already mimic and I feel like their vocabulary and their insult game would be that of like a high schooler going through puberty and then like getting angry at somebody and just mimicking what they say constantly. And that's the only thing that I can think in my head.
Doing what they do now, but with malice.
I have a friend who is taking care of a bird.
Yeah.
Rainie, you know this person who's Trish.
Oh my God.
Taking care of a bird, and I think their bird it was a parakeet. I don't quite remember, but we had a different friend. We're all meeting up at their house one time, and we're meeting this bird for the first time, and I'm holding it, and it's pretty cool. Birds are pet birds are pretty awesome.
Yeah.
And I put the bird on my friend's shoulder, and he's like, "Oh, the bird loves me," and like right as he says that, the bird shits down his back. just like covers his back. It was so funny. And he didn't notice for the longest time until the shit is like hard on his shirt.
I'd lose my mind.
It was so funny, so I definitely agree. This just adds to the like birds being the most bitches.
Mm-hmm.
The
That's
most
fair.
bitch, if they could all talk.
Yeah. Oh, and I bet cats are rude as shit.
Maybe. Depends on the cat.
Yeah.
Some cats are
You're
entitled
saying your
as fuck.
cat would be a bitch?
I see the way my cat looks at me. He's definitely a bitch.
There's a... This is just triggering like a never-ending series of stories from my friends. But I have a... I guess... Well, this one actually... Wolf, you know this one. Ian?
Yeah.
Ian had a cat, or has a cat, named Rookie. And the cat, once it learned it could get up on high like bookshelves or countertops or stuff like that, it would look at Ian. The cat would look at Ian and knock stuff off the counter while the cat was looking at him. And Ian was pissed because his cat discovered how to like use gravity to its advantage.
Oh no.
And it would just like look at him and knock shit off. It was so funny. Oh yeah, the cat was, and this cat I have no doubt would be a huge bitch.
They know what they're doing.
So, oh yeah,
sure.
they absolutely do. They do it on purpose.
Oh, how fucked up would it be if dogs were secretly complete assholes? Like, we give them the...
Chihuahuas definitely would be.
Nah, don't you slander Chihuahuas.
Absolutely.
Chihuahuas would be
Or
assholes,
we grant
man.
them the ability to speak, and they're just awful to us.
No way. I refuse to believe it. Scooby-Doo wasn't an asshole.
Scooby-Doo is an alien. He's not a dog.
What?
It's canon. Didn't you watch? He's not
I know the movie you're referencing.
It's not a movie I'm referencing. It's the
Oh.
animated show. Completely canon to all the Scooby-Doos.
The new one or what?
It's like mid-new. It's like a few years old now.
Those don't
It
count.
was
Those are all terrible.
Mystery Incorporated was great.
Oh, well, maybe I just missed that one then.
Yeah, he's an alien / a god.
Oh, well, does that mean Scrappy-Doo is also an alien?
Yes.
Scrappy-Doo was gunned down in Miami for rivaling a drug trade.
Exactly. That's why I think
He was also in the live-action one.
he was. I quite like
That
the
one's
action one.
phenomenal. What a movie.
What a
What was that one
plot!
called? What? Those are both great. 1 and 2, especially number 1 though.
Yeah.
I never watched the second one, but number 1.
The second one's gas, man. It's so good. The first one's better though. The first one is just like, it's just like every line is like, they can't say that. They can't say that.
I can look at myself.
And they just keep on
do it.
coming. Like how when Fred becomes Daphne, he's
Oh
like,
my
I can look
God.
at myself naked. Well, they're also like presumably a lot older in that one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're like probably like in their 30s.
Yeah. They're able to fly alone.
That one, though, that was a quality movie.
That's right.
If you haven't watched those, definitely give those a watch after you listen to our podcast.
Yeah. Cool, totally.
Let us know your thoughts.
On Scooby-Doo, not Little Nightmares.
Yeah. Fuck Little Nightmares. We're done with that. Shit ass game.
Don't listen to
Yeah.
them. What's their name?
Rude.
Anyways,
What's the studio's name?
Tarzier Studios.
Tarzier. Don't listen to them. Tarzaria.
Listen to them.
Yeah,
Listen to what
me.
they have to say.
Yeah.
I'm the important one. I'm the primary host. I'm the most important.
Oh, God.
All right. Well, I think that about wraps it up for this episode. Excellent question, Rainie, as always. Wolf, why don't you take it away?
Will do as I do every week. Everyone, thank you for watching Your Ridiculous Episode 6. If you have thoughts about Little Nightmares 1 or 2 or the Scooby-Doo movies, let us know. You can follow us on Instagram and Twitter at ridiculous_cast, or you can follow our personals for all kinds of things. Lucas at 7AngryWasp, spelled with an E, and me at
tweet at me and tell me how wrong you are about your opinions on Little Nightmares.
Right, me at Rainbow Does without a W. Rainie May, not on Twitter, but you can see our website at RainieMayDesigns.com. Thank you for watching, everyone, and we will see you next week. Say bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.